With your news now, humanitarian aid organization The Gift of the Givers says they remain on standby in order to respond to any emergencies that may arise resulting from the severe weather that has been forecast. Well, this after a level 4 warning by the Weather Service for disruptive rain in the city as well as the West Coast and Garden Route regions has been forecast this weekend, and teams have also been dispatched to the Silverton Informal Settlement in Khayelitsha as well as Thembalethu in George, where a fire in the early hours of this morning has also resulted in the loss of multiple structures. Gift of the Givers project manager Mr. Sablay joins us now in order to further unpack this. Ali, it's always great to have you with us on the show. Welcome, sir. So how are you actually preparing on the ground for the predicted inclement weather in that region?
For the last 7 days, Gift of the Givers teams has been activated to many of the informal settlements in the Cape Metropole. As people in the informal settlements try to keep warm, they've used any kinds of means to keep the families, whether it's making paraffin stoves or making a fire in the homes. And then there's always the period between 3 to 5 in the morning when we receive that frantic calls from community leaders, community members, informing us that the informal settlement's on fire. It's indeed a double blow for these families, firstly losing their homes to fire that has spread through the informal settlements, to being exposed to the harsh cold weather we are currently experiencing in the Western Cape. This morning was another case where the residents of Silverton Informal Settlement called us, informing us that there are many structures alight. And with that in mind, we were pre-warned about the inclement weather to hit the Cape Metropole, the Western Cape over this weekend. And as my teams are currently busy with distribution in that informal settlement, we are inundated with calls from many informal settlements pleading for our assistance as their homes are currently being flooded.
Ali, maybe just take us through what you're currently witnessing on the ground. I mean, especially for those informal settlements and as well as residents that had been affected by the previous floods as well as fires, as well as inclement weather just in the previous months. How are they doing? Were they not affected this time as well?
You know, it's a replay of the sight of last year. Last year, the Western Cape had its worst rain in its history. Over 200,000 people affected. And with that, many people were promised and even hope that they will be moved from the current informal settlement into a much better place where there will be where it's not so overpopulated. When we received this weather warnings from January already, our teams were quite concerned. There was no movement in these informal settlements. People are rebuilding again, and when we had slight rain 2 months ago, we could see the effect it had on some informal settlement. And with the current rain happening as I'm speaking to you, we are inundated with the major informal settlements: Khayelitsha, Thembalethu, Langa, Lawantle, Nomzamo, Dunun, and the list just carries on. Where our teams people are pleading for assistance in terms of home clothing, anything to cover their roofs, as their homes are currently being flooded. There's no way for them to go to as the neighbors in the same situation. And we would have thought of last year's devastating rain, some sort of initiative would have been taken in place to put people more in dignified homes. But unfortunately, it's going to be the same scenario going in for the next few months.
You know, that's very concerning, Ali, because I just want to understand, how are you collaborating your assistance there? Are you working alongside the cities or the provincial disaster management teams? How is that working relationship going to ensure that you actually distribute aid to those that mostly need it?
Besides disaster relief, we run many social upliftment projects in these informal settlements in the Cape Flat areas. Our teams are very well known. We do have a very good relationship with the Western Cape and all the local disaster risk management teams, where we are working together to ensure that the relief aid is efficiently distributed to the affected families. We make use of our disaster partners as well. Sometimes roads are inaccessible, where we use their resources to deliver aid to these families. And I don't know if you can hear behind me that the hard rain coming down again. And it's quite concerning the amount of calls we're having from elderly people. And we believe, we were speaking to one family member in Khayelitsha about 2 hours ago. She said she sent all the children to some family members who does not stay in the informal settlement, because they're quite concerned that, you know, they can be injured or loss of life. And we do find that many of the people are the people are still traumatized of last year's effect of the heavy rains coming down. And you can just imagine what the fire victims must be going through, as you know, besides losing their homes, they are exposed to this harsh weather.
Ali, thank you so much for that. I understand as well in your statement there, you said you've also added additional resources just to prepare for the upcoming winter season. So how can the rest of the public, as well as anybody who wants to assist? I know you mentioned quite a few items that you are actually collecting in order to assist those that are also in the rebuilding process.
There's a dire need of blankets and mattresses. As we can see, the numbers are increasing as the rains is coming down. We've pulled in additional resources and stocks from our warehouses in KZN and Gauteng. But those who wanting to donate, you're most welcome to contact our toll-free number 0800 786 911.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sablay, as always, for your time and contribution on the show. That is the gift of the givers, Mr. Ali Sablay. There he is, the project manager.